Welcome to the App Advisory Show, your fortnightly dose of all things cloud accounting, apps, and app advisory.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the App Advisory Show. I've got a person with a great first name called Matt. Hi, Matt White from iwoca. How you doing, mate?
Hi, Matt Flanagan. I'm doing well, pal. Yeah, very well. Pleased to be here with you today.
Yeah, we've not actually chatted as much. We had a pre-pandemic, we had regular meetups. iwoca held a lot of like the app meetups and stuff, to be fair, but we just haven't had that opportunity, have we, at all?
No, there was that pesky pandemic that got in the way. And we'll be getting them back. They're actually some of my cards to start reorganising our quarterly catch-ups so we can keep all the apps talking to each other so we can build things better in a way. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so we've sort of gone very informal before even doing the formalities, right? So, but Matt, tell us what your role is and who you're working for at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm, Matt White. I work for iwoca. iwoca's a lending and payment provider specifically for small businesses. We've been around the last 10 years. They formed back in sort of 2012. Our two co-founders who are still in the business, James and Christoph, came together and effectively wanted to plug the gap that was small business lending, and by effectively using technology where incumbents were working still on old traditional methods of lending for these business types. So what we've done over the last 10 years is build out our own credit risk models, our own technologies to assess businesses. And over the years, built out from our core product suite of just a sort of working capital option for small businesses to now being a full suite of lending and payment options. Me specifically, I work in our accountants channel. By that, for the last 5 years, we've now been working directly with firms, accounting and bookkeeping firms around the country, helping them to educate and guide their clients on the different lending products available. So we're there as a conduit into iwoca. So if an accountant has a question, needs to find out what lending we can provide, they can pick up the phone, speak to someone like myself or one of the team.
Cool. Okay. And how long have you been at iwoca?
So I've been there now 4 years, he says, rubbing his head. It's like my timeline's totally gone since 2020. I haven't got a clue what day of the week it is. But yeah, the last 4 years I've been at iwoca. I've been working with accountants for the last 8 years. So I was at a brokerage before I moved to iwoca, looking sort of whole of market lending for small businesses. So I've been in that space for nearly a decade now, which is not a short amount of time, I guess.
Not at all. And you mentioned about the original co-founders still being part of the business. Like, where did this come from? I think it's always interesting to find out. Like, it's normally a problem that was solved or an opportunity that was seen. Like, where did this sort of arise for these guys?
I think it was a bit of both, really. Like, I've heard a few versions of the story over the last 4 years. You always do. So Christoph, and this is where you're going to test me. I'm going to say Christoph was at Deutsche Bank. James was Credit Suisse? No, I can't remember. Goldman Sachs are in Deutsche Bank with the backgrounds of the term, and there we go. And they met at a fintech event. So this is like really early, sort of 2010, 2011. They met at this fintech event where they were both working into big bank and investment, but they could see this massive void where banks and investors, and no one was investing in small business in that sector of SMEs. So we're talking depending on the stats, like 97, 99% of UK businesses fall in that bracket. I know the economics are sort of disproportionately aligned against those numbers, but they sat there and went, right, well, the banks find them too risky, so do investors. But there's certainly a lot of good businesses in that area because they've been around for years. Because they're not a monstrous Amazon or a Google, they're not a safe bet for the banks, and they just can't. It's not economical for them to actually lend in that space. So they wanted to then introduce technology to help take away the hassle of waiting to see your bank manager or trying to call through call centres to actually get anywhere with a loan application. But equally, we wanted to be able to serve that part of the market, and that's kind of where iwoca was born. we started doing up to £50,000 to Amazon and eBay sellers. That's where we started. So it was like a really niche. You needed to have, back in the day when Amazon was early doors, going, "Oh yeah, you an Amazon seller? Do you do? Okay, right, great. No, see you later. We'll come back in 5 years." But so it was quite niche to start with. But then obviously all it then became is proof of concept. Like, yes, this works. Let's expand it a bit. Let's increase the loan amounts. Let's increase the target industries, and go from there. And yeah, so James is the CTO, Chief Technical Officer. I think his official title is something like iwoca Numbers Wizard or something. And Christoph is the CEO. So they're both very much part of the business, each looking after specific products in-house. So they sort of keep accountable for actually making roadworks and making things work through the business, and not just sitting back enjoying the ride, really.
But, it's like you talking about that early days of iwoca. To be fair, I'm sure I stumbled across, this is a few years ago, maybe even start of pandemic, when I was just looking around, I stumbled across like an early fintech networking session where I think Christoph did an iwoca presentation, which was around Amazon and eBay, which was really early doors.
So that would have been when they met. Would have been probably that presentation. Christoph giving it and James coming up afterwards and going, "Actually, I've got some ideas on this, and I've got the technical know-how to be able to help you build the risk models and the engines you need to assess these type of businesses." And that's where Christoph's coming in from the investment background and able to access the financing, or at least contacts in the financing world that we can get a bit of backing. And James able to come in and say, "Actually, this is a computer and I can tell you how it works." Which we're all pretty good at being able to Google stuff, but when you then drill back into the back end and the coding language and world that is effectively just lots and lots of maths algorithms, he's fantastic in that space and has built a great team around him. I think we're now at about 320 in iwoca, 320 iwocans as we're colloquially called, and it's probably about 100 are in the tech team or tech and analytics team. And then the remainder across the business, got operations, collections, the partnerships team that I'm part of. It's full suite business now. It's crazy. It's still very much startup feel, which is lovely, but definitely not quite the sort of 10 of them in the office in the early days.
I think everyone goes to the offices. It's quite a trendy vibe and a startup vibe at the office, even though you've taken over more and more. I think when I first came to see you, you had a few desks, and then you had a floor, and then you had a few floors, and then you're at a different building. So I have sort of periodically seen that growth happen. And you mentioned about the technical element. I mean, people think, it's a lending, it's a capital sort of product. But tell us, it's not just that. You've got a few little variations on products, haven't you, as well, in terms of what you're offering? It's not all just that. You've got so tell us a bit about the products that you're sort of majoring at the moment.
So as I say, like initially it was that first product. It was what was the credit facility and is now called the flexi loan. So that's just short term. It's designed for short term working capital needs. That's where it's bread and butter, perfect. But on that, we then naturally went, okay, one product's great, but diversifying a product suite, being able to offer more things is better, especially if the market demand changes. So what we went and did was created a term loan to trial a 5-year business loan. Tested that for a while, and it was running quite well up until COVID, so up until the coronavirus sort of came into our lives. At that point, we, like most businesses, pretty much stopped lending overnight. Interestingly, just a sort of year before that, we'd actually won a government grant, so back of the BCR, if you remember that grant on the back of RBS. So we got a £10 million grant then to research and develop new products and new offerings for businesses. So one of the things we'd started working on then was this payment product. So it was sort of we were looking at it initially like a reverse invoice financing idea. So going, okay, but here's what invoice financing looks like, but we want to make it more suitable for the business that's trying to free up their capital, and put the emphasis on their customers to be the person that holds the debt obligation, because they're the one that hasn't paid. So we started building iwoca Pay, paused it, and then actually accelerated it with COVID. So I think it was June 2020, we were like, actually, this is the perfect time to launch the product, because how it works is that you go, okay, send out your invoice, attach an iwoca Pay link, and then your customer either pays you instantly in a couple of clicks, so gets rid of the whole faffing around online, procrastinating on the invoice, having to go into their online banking, or they can then spread the cost over 3 months. So if they do that, that's great. We'll pay the supplier on day one, regardless of what the customer does. But the customer is then the one that has to pay the debt back. So they're the one that sat there and gone, I want to take a credit facility or a credit agreement on this debt and pay it back over 3 months. And it's like, well, yeah, why shouldn't they? They're the one that owes the money. Like, they should be the one that's footing the bill. And so we've introduced that, and it's just gone mad. So the last 2 years have been fantastic to see people adopting this. We've getting accountants ranging from sole practice up to top 100, seeing the benefit in it. And it's been great. We've equally then recently launched another final product to mention, is sort of again gearing on that open banking, which is what powers iwoca Pay, is our revenue-based loan. So it's a product that's been around for a few years in the lending space, where merchant cash advance is what it's based on. But instead of just looking at card processors like your Elevon, WorldPay, etc., we can also look at on all the online revenues, so Amazon, eBay, Etsy, not on the high street, any e-commerce platform that's got regular payments into a business, we can consider for the loan option. So yeah, it's been a strange couple of years by going into the pandemic with the sort of 2 loans, coming out with the government-backed schemes like we were on the CBILS, RLS currently accredited for, but then equally bringing out new products to suit a changing market, and it's been really exciting to be part of that journey, really.
And in terms of, have you got a team which works directly with businesses as well as your accounting channel? Have you got both streams?
Yeah, so we call them channels internally. So you've got the various teams, like you've got the partnerships, and we call with the 3PS team, third parties and sales team, made up of the sales channel, the broker channel, the accountants channel, our partners channel. So on that, we've got a direct sales team that work going out, speaking direct to business owners. Sometimes that's interacting with marketing sort of leads that might come in via the website. We've got our broker team that work with finance brokerages around the country. The team I'm in, the accountants channel. So we're working with, as I said, sort of bookkeepers, accounting firms around the country. So always one of the big things in iwoca, and you and I have talked about this before, Matt, but it's that trying to always remain personal and having a face to the company. There's no switchboards, there's no robot dialers inside iwoca. If you call in on the website, the number on the website, you will reach a human pretty much straight away. There might be a small queue, but you'll get through to someone within minutes. And it's kind of always been aligned with that we understand the importance of working directly with accountants, the same way we understand kind of how we want to work with direct with clients. It's just having that person that is able to know everything about a business, or at least everything about the finances and their objectives, and then to be able to provide a bit of guidance to the business owner is infinitely more powerful than just someone that goes, oh, I've searched on Google and I think this is the best thing because it's at the top of the list. So I didn't worry about the sponsored ad part. I just thought I'd click through and see what they do. So it's nice to have that human interaction.
Definitely. I mean, the reason I ask about the different channels in terms of direct to SME and accountants are like, there's certainly pre-pandemic, I think there's like quite a lot of skepticism around like working capital solutions and what they offer and how they work. And I always find it fascinating if a solution has a direct channel, that's because there's a demand for a direct channel, which sort of proves the point. So, I listen to some accounts be listening, I'm not sure about this. And I always think, well, if there's an SME looking and a solution has put a direct channel in place, it's because people are looking for it and they're not being offered it necessarily all the time by whoever their advisor is in whatever guise that advisor shows. So I think that's one of the reasons I asked that. But I agree with you. I think in terms of speaking to someone, having that accounting, bookkeeping channel as well, which is again a group of people who are going to look after those types of advisors, and I think it's really important. Just on that sort of like skepticism as well, and I think what we have seen through the pandemic is like your personal life and your work life and technology is sort of intertwined a little bit now, right? I think Zoom
sort
was a
of.
bit well, completely right. Yeah, like your Zoom meetings were a bit, for work and these types of things. All of a sudden, they were hosting like family quizzes or family and friends quizzes, and we got this sort of overlap into it. But I think even when we're talking about the iwoca Pay, which is buy now, pay later, almost in types of essence. Well, we've seen that in the commercial world for a long time, right? You buy something online, pair of shoes, some clothes, and you pay over the next 3 months, or you pay in 6 months, whatever. You get given those options. So it's interesting how that's sort of come into like a business world, and I think it'd be much better taken, having been through what we've been through, maybe than previously. Have you felt that or seen that, or am I just barking completely the wrong tree that they're willing to take it beforehand? And
I'd say it's exactly that. Like before COVID, when we were user testing and trialing out different versions of the iwoca product. So just sort of as a clarification, so yes, you've got the buy now, pay later, which we call pay later or pay in 3. We've also got the pay now, the like instant payment. So the customer chooses exactly like you would pay on a normal checkout. They go
choose to defer the payments, completely up to you.
Exactly that. And they go, and we did initially have people, and some of it were accounting firms who, for example, wanted to introduce the product to their clients. So they're saying, I've got 4 or 5 customers that this would be great for, but I don't want to be seen to be promoting credit facilities and credit agreements, and I don't want to give them pay later. And you're like, okay, I can entirely understand that the perception in that sort of situation. Okay, you don't want to be seen to be promoting debt, but it's kind of like 3 parts removed. It's like you're giving your customer a way to get their, or your client a way to get their invoices paid. It's then their customer's choice if they choose that route. You're just providing the solution, and it's ultimately 3 people away who you've never met who are going, actually, that's really what I want to do. And they're fully aware of it. So we're not pushing either option. But it's definitely a question or an objection that's disappeared a lot more in the last year or so, where, like say, you go on and you see Klarna, if you're in, easy example, like getting a new fridge and you've got it, do you want to spread it over 6 months for free? It's just more commonplace. Yes, I agree with some of the sort of bits in the news about it being an unregulated market and it needs looking at. I definitely agree with that. In a consumer world, everything lending-wise should be regulated, and in business terms, it should certainly have an oversight on it. We always, you look at that and go, is that objection less? Yeah, it's a bit easier now that people go, oh, great, you've got 2 options, you can just pay that later. Where it's really fascinating and has totally changed is we introduced a new feature probably 3 months ago, which is our modular pricing on that pay later. So you can actually turn around and decide who pays for it. So either the seller, like the user of iwoca Pay, can pay a small transaction fee, I think it's 3% on the invoice value, and their customer then gets 3 months for free. So it's an interest-free option for them.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Or they switch it round and go, actually, as an iwoca Pay user, I don't want to get charged because I can't control what my customer's doing. So I want to have a free to use platform, no transaction costs anywhere. And if my customer chooses to pay later, that's great, but they can pay for that in an interest, like say, pay an interest payment on each month. So now you can effectively go, well, actually, I love this customer, I'll foot the bill for that one. Or they're not really my favorite. They can pay for it if they want to go longer. So that's been a massive game changer in that space as well, of being able to sort of give people a bit more comfort that you're not pushing debt around, or if you don't want to charge your customers, you don't have to.
On the pay later, is there a limit on like the transactional amount?
So currently 15,000 would be the max limit. So most small businesses, for an invoice value of that size, it's kind of understandable why you'd want to spread it out quite a lot of the time. But we are looking at increasing that. So I think the most likely event, don't quote me on this, is it'll probably go up to about 25 in the next sort of 6 or 9 months, and then maybe higher in the future. We're always looking at a few other things we can do. So we are always listening to feedback from people that are using it. But it's just, what do we do next is always the question. Like, where are we going to see where are all the iwoca users going to see the best value, really? So
I think that's interesting.
keeps us busy.
choose whether you swallow the fees or you pass it on to your prospective client. Interesting. Good. Yeah.
It's now made it. Yeah, it's now made it the only free to use B2B payments platform. I think if you do that,
okay.
Because you've got we had a really weird, scary in a way example recently. Was a customer came over and went, I paid £37,000 for Stripe fees last year. I'm like, right. So I've got 40 grand just straight back in the business. Like, yeah, that's basically what just happened. There you go. Have a lovely day. And I don't intend on knocking a collaborator in the industry. I love Stripe, but it is each product's got their own different costs associated, and it's amazing when they all add up.
And are you using the open banking? Like, is that part of the framework that you're using?
Apparently, but to me, I'll be honest, it's a bit like a microwave to me. I don't really get it. I'm joking. It's I do look terrified now. Yeah, we are. It's plugging into open banking, so effectively, it's sort of decentralizing those bank accounts that you can use your own data. With iwoca Pay, so we worked it out through a bit of research we did last year, the year before. It was about 20 clicks on average. So if you receive an invoice in your inbox, it was about 20 clicks to then go into your online banking, go to your accounts, go to your new payee, set up a new payee, log in all the details. So with iwoca Pay, effectively, it's now 3-click solution. So you click on your bank app, it takes you straight into your mobile banking app, and you just pre-populates all the deals, all the details for you, and says, do you want to pay Matt Flanagan £10 right now? And you just hit yes, and that's it, done. So yeah, it's crazy, really. I mean, I still see it in my personal life. I see open banking payments, and I'm still astounded, and I work in the space, so it's like, yeah, it's fantastic to see it actually happen.
I think as well, people think that people don't want to pay invoices. It's not always the case. It's just an absolute mission to get it. Yeah, it's just a mission to get it done.
I get them in, and I just go. All I've got to do is I've got to fill out a Google form, and even then I'm like, I'll put that off till later. It's just quite a lot of effort. I get it. I understand. Even if you're a finance team, I get it that it's going to be stressful to change the way you're doing things, and equally, probably a bit scary to think, well, what happens when I don't have to do all that manual data? Will I get asked to do more work? But if it makes your life easier and it gets you paid, like gets everyone paid quicker, brilliant. So it's definitely the most exciting product we've got at the moment. Is iwoca Pay. I know I sort of keep harping on about it. I know, and as I said, we've got revenue-based loans, we've got everything else we do, but it's certainly the one that's been received the best across the space, especially with accountants seem to be much more interested in that. It's not really very surprising than the lending options we offer. Because they are able to effectively just save money for their clients. So,
okay, excellent. And is that the? Have we covered the key features that you want to talk about? Is there anything else you want to cover? Because we've gone heavy. We've gone heavy onto iwoca Pay. It is a great product. It's really good.
I think the best feature about it. Sorry to interrupt. The best feature about it is that you get paid on day one. So there's no delay in payment. Whether the customer goes pay now or pay later, the supplier's going to get their money on the first on day zero, as opposed to having to wait a week or two. So there's just no payment lag there, which is always probably the most important thing.
Yeah, it's really useful at the moment, isn't it? Definitely, can definitely see that. And in terms of that pay now, because I'm just thinking some of the questions that would come up with this, it can be for a service as well as a product, right? Because I know there used to be this thing with any lending, it had to be something physical. You couldn't lend for a service. So
it was great. Yeah. I remember when leasing suddenly moved into the software space, and everyone was like, you can get hire purchase now on a computer software. Like, oh, this is very interesting. But it's actually software based and service based is probably our biggest sector. Has been an area where we're seeing a really interesting sort of space of, I think, so we had e-commerce is an area where it certainly is growing for that service based B2B businesses. Some of the first iwoca Pay users I remember were doing IT virtual setups and things like that, where it's just large ticket items. They wanted to be able to get some of it in first, and effectively offer their clients payment terms. But on that, is there a split so much? Yeah, it's probably quite even across the two. Because it's on just the invoice value, and then it's the end customer that's being assessed if they want credit terms. It's kind of irrelevant what the service is being offered. And equally, you can backdate it on old invoices, which makes it quite easy to use. Let's get you using it, Matt. There you go.
I had a good look at it a couple of years ago. But we look at all sorts of products, really. I think I've probably got the most connected accounts in the UK with everything. But no, I mean, it's so good. I mean, I try and keep on top of them all, and it's just so good to actually catch up with all of you guys. I think you do a great job. But yeah, iwoca Pay's definitely got an interest of a lot of people, and I think certainly service businesses haven't been well catered for in the past, but I think this does give a good option for them. So. Great stuff. And in terms of accounting, we've got also accountants and bookkeepers listening to this. In terms of accounting solutions, the collaboration, integration, what are you guys working with?
So probably our better known integration and our best sort of version of iwoca and iwoca Pay is through Xero. So we've sort of maintained a partnership with Xero for a number of years now, built a good sort of embedded integration there. We are in conversation with QuickBooks, but we're equally looking at options where we can just go cross-platform. So looking at sort of people like Coda and stuff, where you can go, okay, well, we could just plug in a third-party API to all the platforms, because that's the tricky part, is going, okay, getting you'll know this from speaking to a number of techish companies, actual developers and tech teams that can do any building of things, their time is very precious, and to be able to turn around and say, we would love to build out our QuickBooks integration. It's quite hard to be able to carve that time out for them without a solid reason why. And as much as we might get anecdotal people going, "Oh, I'd love it," that doesn't really sway them. So we're slowly working to build out other integrations, but you can fully embed some of iwoca Pay links in QuickBooks, Free Agent, Cashflow, wherever you want to use Iris. You're going crazy. So Xero is probably the best option at the moment.
Great stuff. Okay. And you mentioned your accounting and bookkeeping channel, which you've got now. If somebody's listening to this and going, "Oh, do you know what, I really need to get a hold on this iwoca Pay or any of the other products that you've got," how do they interact with you? What does the channel look like? How does that relationship feel?
Yeah, so probably the easiest one is just to get in touch with us, as in just give us a call, drop us an email. So iwoca/accountants. Or go to the iwoca website, so iwoca, which, if you're interested, is Instant Working Capital, which is where the acronym comes from. Even we've got 2-year-old staff that don't know that, so keep it hush. But we've iwoca.co.uk/accountants or accountants@iwoca. Drop us an email. Equally, reach out to myself on LinkedIn, Matt White. I'm occasionally active. I used to be very active. I've certainly calmed down on how much I post on social with as you mentioned earlier, that work-life balance is, I realised that during the pandemic, I needed to calm down on the amount of online time outside of working hours. We always have to have a conversation. There's contact us forms on the website. There's, ways to become introducers. You can sign up for the products, blah, blah.
Plenty of ways then. So
plenty of ways.
We'll put those links in the show notes as well. And in terms of we're getting back to physical events and face-to-face stuff. You guys are serial exhibitors in the past. Are you guys doing everything this year that you can?
That sounds terrible. Serial exhibitors. Yeah.
Well, obviously from a marketing perspective.
I've been told I will not flash again. So we are at pretty much all of the events in the accounting calendar this year, I think. The only one we haven't confirmed yet is probably Accounting Web later on in the year, but otherwise we've got, this will test me. I'm going to say, what's the order? Is it Accountex, then Digital Accountancy Show, then weirdly XeroCon in July? But before that, I think the first thing we've actually got is the Xero Awards evening at the end of April. So we're finalists for that. So iwoca Pay is an emerging app. I was saying, I forgot you're a judge.
Yes, So
looking forward to that catch up.
I think it's the last event I went to pre-pandemic, because that was on the 3rd of March or something like that. which seems actually a lot longer than that. It seems like about 10 years.
Elbow bumping people for the first time and thinking, what was this? Yeah.
You had this funny thing where you went with your hand and then flicked your elbow because you weren't sure
That's
whether
what all the kids are doing these days.
Yeah. I must look very thin. But yeah, no, it'll be good to catch up. Well, we've had a good chinwag about quite a lot there, but I think for anybody listening, I think Matt does seem very, very enthusiastic is the right term for iwoca pay. So
manic is probably a more accurate word. Yeah.
So you should go and have a look, and if you're interested in hooking up with these guys and partnering up, then we'll have all of the links in the show notes. But Matt, that's been absolutely great. Thanks a lot for your time today.
Thank you as well, Matt. Fantastic name, great show. Keen to come back again.
Yes, we'll have you back again. So for anyone listening, this is on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, anywhere there's a podcast, we're on there. Subscribe, put us a little review. Any questions you want bringing up, any apps that you'd like to come on the show, then please pipe up and let us know. But for today, we'll leave that. Thanks again, Matt.
Bye for now.